Well, a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of the Up Business podcast with me, Ian. We've got a special guest this afternoon to introduce you to in a moment. But before we get to that, joining me, of course, as you'll see on screen, is Mr. Chris Dowling, our Chamber President. Hello, Chris. How are you this afternoon?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm a little bit tired. At a late night. You
went to football. You went to football at Aston Villa last night.
I did. I got back at 2:00 this morning. I'm a little bit jaded, but apart from that, I'm good. And this is a podcast about business in Uckfield, not about Crystal Palace. So I must remember that.
But Palace are playing Arsenal in the next round, so it'll be a trip to London rather than Birmingham for the next round.
Something like that, yeah.
Much easier.
We better stop talking about football, otherwise I'll go off on one and talk about football.
We don't want to get tribal or get sectarian about it, do we? No, certainly not.
We don't. Anyway,
I'm very pleased to be here. Pleased to be joining you. Thank you.
Jolly good. And of course, yesterday was the first budget from this new Labour government, and I heard snippets on the radio driving up to Birmingham yesterday. But what was your take on the Rachel Reeves's first budget?
I wasn't overwhelmed. Certainly from the business perspective, I think it was disappointing at best, troubling at worst. She's looking to raise £40 billion in taxation, from what I see and understand. 25 billion of that will come from employers' national insurance contribution going up by 1.5%, and they're of course lowering the threshold at which employers will start to pay national insurance for their employees. So to me, that's a cost on business. That's extra expense for business. That will take it away from investment, wages, buying things, doing things, and of course there's extra regulations coming in for business as well. So I think for the owners of small businesses, which we're all familiar with. I'm the owner of a small business. I know dozens of people who run small businesses. We are a small business economy in this part of East Sussex. I think it's bad news. Business is being looked at to provide the wealth creation and the revenue to help drive the economy. Sorry, but with the best will in the world, I didn't see that coming through yesterday. I didn't see any incentives. I didn't see any tax breaks for business. I was disappointed. I just saw more burden and cost for business, which I think is disappointing. We are a market economy and we need support from government for entrepreneurs and business people to get out there and do it and create wealth and create jobs and be entrepreneurial. One thing I would say, though, it was good to see in the smaller detail of the budget statement, there was the continuing support for business support. I work on a program called Help to Grow. It looks as if that will continue, and other support as well. I think about £250 million for business support, which will find its way through various programs, find its way through councils. So that continues as well. But I think, front line with the growth agenda we have and the enthusiasm, or the apparent enthusiasm for growth, more could have been done and should have been done. But perhaps that's for another day. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. We were at the risk of going into maybe too much detail there, but thank you for your views. It is something that if you want the detail, obviously there's plenty online, and we've got firms of accountants that are members of the chamber, and they often produce a budget summary and that kind of thing. So touch with them if you want to know more. Before we get to our guest today, I just want to we often talk about on this podcast things that are going on in Uckfield. And it's right that we have a quick look at that this afternoon, you and I. So we've got a shiny new bus station that's been worked on recently. There it is, Chris. Have you been down there yet? You've seen the new bus station? What it looks like?
I haven't walked through it. I've walked past it. It's been a long time coming. It's taken perhaps a little bit longer to build over the past month or two than was expected, but it's good for Uckfield. It's good for access into Uckfield. It provides better facilities for those who are waiting for buses. We have a very good bus service, of course, between Tunbridge Wells and Brighton, coming through Uckfield every half hour or so. A bus comes through, so it's good for Uckfield. It's another step up for Uckfield, and glad it's finished and sorted and gets the issues away from. There were some knock-on effects in Bell Lane, which obviously won't happen because it's sorted. It's done. So that's good news. It's good news.
And one noticeable difference on the service road there is that now has double yellow lines, whereas previously we used to see cars parked all the way along there to the end of that road where you can see there on the right hand side, and it made getting in and out of the Bell Lane car park, Bell Walk car park rather, quite difficult really at times, especially I guess for bus riders. So I welcome that. I think that's a good thing. People didn't need to park there. There's plenty of free car parking in Uckfield.
Absolutely, and see people every day of the week. See people parking badly, be it in Bell Lane or bit in the High Street. I saw one on early in the week. I just couldn't believe what the person was doing in trying to where they were parking, what they were doing when we got free parking readily and easily available. That's what people do, though.
Sure. Okay. And one of the things that I thought we'd have a quick touch on today was vacant properties in the High Street. So
there are a few.
There we go. I did ask Uckfield Smith if they were able to come on this podcast just very briefly today, but they couldn't. It was short notice. But they have promised to come on a future podcast. They're one of the commercial agents in the town, along with Lawson Commercial, that are best known. And we've got there some properties that are vacant at the moment. But two of those, the ones on the left-hand side, are the let has been agreed by Uckfield Smith, which is good news. I think one of the things we were talking about pre-show was that sometimes these units, they get let, but they take a long time to come to fruition as a new business, being in the business and trading, because of red tape and change of use and all that kind of stuff.
Well, legal issues and possibly money as well. So what goes on behind the scenes, we won't have the details, but perhaps as business people, we know what can be involved. We know what can happen. And these things aren't perhaps as straightforward as they should be or appear to be.
Yeah, Uckfield Smith did tell me that the TN22 building, which is the top left there that you can see in the centre of the town, that's adjacent to Olive's Yard, sort of almost opposite the old NatWest there, which you can see at the bottom right. That has been let, and that will be occupied before Christmas.
Oh, good.
Okay. So I can't tell you what's going in it just at the moment, but it will be occupied before Christmas. We can't say the same, I don't think, from the bottom left. And the top right one, that's the old health food shop rather, at the bottom of town near the Riverside Fish Bar. Now, that's been empty a long time, and that's let by agents that aren't local. And I guess that's to do with the freeholders appointing somebody, that kind of stuff. Would you say so?
Yeah. We assume so. It would be nice to have seen a Lawson board or Uckfield Smith board, like local businesses with sort of local interests and perhaps local connections. But whoever Craddock are, let's hope they find someone to come in and do it. I think there'd be quite a bit of work to do there as well. That shop's been empty for quite a long time, and I would fear it may not be as pretty as we'd like it to be, but hopefully someone will pick it up and find it useful. Of course, opposite there is the KFC shop as well, which is closed due to the franchise owners having all kinds of problems, and we understand closing down. So that's two in that part.
And it wasn't just Uckfield, Chris. So this franchisee apparently had 30 KFC outlets and went into administration, therefore couldn't trade, and therefore his units stopped trading. Now they were offered to other franchisees apparently because they were it out. But the Uckfield one just apparently wasn't making enough money. And when you think about what it was compared to, say, the McDonald's drive-through, I suppose that's understandable. It's very different models, aren't they? The drive-through works for McDonald's. I think.
I think with the KFC shop, the fact you couldn't park outside was probably a problem for them. There was no sort of drop and pull up and run in or pull up and wait, unlike the drive-throughs and the other ones which have got parking. So perhaps that was a factor. We don't know reasons for it all, but it's
no, exactly.
It's disappointing to see it go. But okay, that's what happens in business.
Sure, we need to move on. Just a few other units there, and one I'm not going to talk long about any of these other than the top right. That's the old Barclays Bank building at the top of Church Street Junction by the traffic lights, and Lawson Commercial have let that, and Chris Lawson did tell me who's going in there, and I won't say on this podcast, but that's an exciting project for Uckfield. It's really good that bank premises are now being relet and hopefully brought into use again. So that is good news. Barclays Bank building will be used in the future. So the other one there, the bottom right, that's the old Love Cocoa shop, and they've relocated, of course, to the centre of town. And I went in there the other day, and they're doing very well. So that's good news. and that one is also by Oldfield Smith, and that has a letter grade on it as well. So that's good news. So, sometimes people say lots of empty units in Uckfield, charity shops and so on. But compared to a lot of other towns, I think we do pretty well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Good.
High Street's always lively, and High Street's always busy.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Shall we get our guest on, Chris?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, good. So I'm delighted to welcome Paul Stanyer from PS Tech, one of the Uckfield Chamber members. Good afternoon, Paul. How are you today?
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I'm doing okay, thank you.
Very good. Very good. You haven't been too well though recently, have you? I'm told.
No, I don't recommend the new COVID strain. Let's put it that way.
You don't recommend it. Okay. So we'll understand it. You do have to break off and have a little cough. No problem at all.
Thank you. And
you've kindly joined us this afternoon to talk about the scary subject, which is rather appropriate given what day of the year it is. Talk about cyber security. We hadn't really planned that, but it just sort of happened. So I thought it's right in there. So cyber security, that's what you do at PS Tech.
It's one of the things that we do.
Yeah, good. Do you want to just give a little sort of a preamble about what else you do at PS Tech? What your IT experts, it says there.
Yes. So predominantly what we do is we help small businesses with their IT, with their cybersecurity, telephone, internet, mobile working, and things like that. So our customers vary in size all the way from quite a few solopreneurs up to businesses of 200 to 300 people.
Fantastic. And how many of you in the business?
There are 11 of us in the business. So when we're not ill, we're very busy.
And where are you in Uckfield?
So we moved, actually, interestingly. We weren't on the high street before. We were in Framfield Road down near the hospital, but we moved back in March. We're up in Falmer Court, which is just up the road from the Jet petrol station at the top of Uckfield.
Okay, brilliant. So top of town. Near the speed camera. That's
yes. Make sure we slow down before we turn into the car.
Absolutely, smile for the camera. Jolly good. Now, Paul, you've got some slides for us this afternoon, but it's not going to be a dry lecture about cybersecurity, is it?
No, I want to make it interesting because let's face it, the topic of cybersecurity probably is a little bit like the topic of have I written a will? It's the sort of topic that we may want to stick our head in the sand over because one, we don't understand it. And secondly, it's complicated, and when we don't understand things, then we try possibly to ignore them, and that's just natural human behaviour.
Sure.
So I wanted to make it a bit more relatable and practical. To start off with, I've just got some questions, actually, Ian, for you and Chris, just to make this relative. So I want to talk about your homes. Don't want any personal information, but our homes are, our home is our castle, isn't it? Is an old saying. Yeah. And we want to make sure that our home is safe because we put our family in there. We have good memories in our homes, and that's where we live, isn't it? So, but there are many ways that we want to make sure we keep that home safe. So I just want to put this out to you and Chris, actually. When it comes to protecting your home, what sort of strategies have you employed?
Do you want to take it first, Chris?
Well, very good question, isn't it? So we've got contents insurance, we've got the bricks and mortar insured, we've got various contracts for gas servicing, things like that. It's not something that's in the front of my mind, I have to say, but no, I do believe that got it pretty well covered. If it got burnt down or destroyed, then if I could find the insurance, certificate in the ashes, then we'd be okay.
Okay, let's come back to insurance in a moment. What about yourself, Ian? What sort of things have you done to protect your home?
I was thinking more sort of basic than that. I put locks on the doors, and I lock the door at night. And windows, actually. We've got window locks as well.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think I just get into the habit every night before I go to bed of double locking the front door. I mean, I don't think you can get in anyway. It's locked from the outside in any event, but I double lock it every night. I put a little chain over, and I don't know why I do it, but I presume I do it subconsciously to protect my home, Paul.
We do precisely the same thing.
Yeah, I did the same. Check the front door, check the back door, check the doors to the garage, make sure they are locked and safe.
Exactly. So we sort of do those things by rote, don't we, in the end, because it becomes habit. But there's other things that we can do to protect our home. For example, making sure that the locks that we've got are fit for purpose.
Yeah.
Some people install camera systems, CCTV, or even now a bit more commoditized are the sort of doorbells with cameras that people use to surveil their home. Some people go down the road of putting alarms in, and they have those actively monitored by a security company. Some people buy one or more big dogs. So yeah, that's a good deterrent, isn't it? And Chris, ever the businessman, you brought up the topic of insurance as well, which is a form of protection. But it's an interesting topic, insurance, because the insurance company still expect us to do those basics, don't they? They expect us to have the right locks. They expect us to have, the right, I can't think what the right word is, but there's a certain type of lock they expect on your doors and your garage and your windows and so on. And if you don't do those basic things, or you don't do the maintenance that they ask, then your insurance is actually void. When you come to claim and it turns out you left the door unlocked or the lock wasn't suitable, the insurance is actually worthless. So insurance companies, what they've done, they've looked at risk and they've recommended in their policy or handbook the best way to protect your home to reduce that risk. And for them, that means reduce the risk of paying out. So now with business owners, yeah, exactly. With business owners, it's the same for our businesses. We want to protect our business. It's something that we've nurtured, we've grown. It's like our second home in some respects. And we may have business insurance to cover the physical assets that we've got against some of the risks that you mentioned, fire and flood and so on. But often what's neglected or ignored is the digital assets that we may have. And business insurance does not cover your digital assets, or at least not as extensively as you might think. So, like the way insurance companies have looked at risk for our home, we need to understand what the risks are for our businesses. So to help us start thinking about risk, I want to play a little game with you both. We've got so what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few simple questions to start helping us understand what if type scenarios. So that helps us to get in the mind of, if I'm looking at risks in my business, how can I understand what the level of risk is, because some risks are negligible, whereas some are quite severe. So we've got a question on screen here about winning the lottery. So the odds in the UK of winning the national lottery jackpot, what do you think the odds are? One in what?
Well, it's millions, isn't it?
It's millions and
billions. Millions.
20 million, 25 million. I mean, I know it's an enormous number.
Is it? Yeah. I know the answer because I put these slides together, but I thought before doing this, it was like 13 million or something like that. Perhaps we can see the answer just to get us into the flow of this.
45 million. Woo, gosh.
Only 45 million. So that's a lot of £1 tickets, isn't it?
That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Very good. Let's look at our next one then. So this is a bit more random. Depends with this risk, probably talking about shark attack. If you swim in the channel, the chance of a shark attack is probably pretty low. But if you live somewhere, say in southern Australia, suddenly the situation changes. So the context of the situation changes maybe on geography in this particular risk. So what do you think globally the likelihood of getting attacked by a shark is?
I've literally no idea on this one because of the variance, as you say. In some places it's high, in some places it's lower. 1 in 10 million.
I'd say more than that. Hundreds of. I mean, if you're looking at the population of the world and then try and bring that in alongside that, what's it? 1 in a 500 million. Oh.
Okay. Well, this is going to change the way that you view swimming in the sea.
I was closest.
Yeah. Oh, well, there we are.
Yeah. So the risk is a lot higher than you may have thought. Even so, it's still quite a low risk, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and again, you would obviously be careful about where you swam. Let's look at our next one. So I don't know if you play golf at all.
Not for me. Not for me.
Sometimes when we start to understand numbers around risks, that helps us to calculate perhaps what the risk is. So here's a stat. There's only about 150,000 holes in one recorded every year globally in 490 million rounds of golf. Now, let's be clear here. Some golfers are better than others. If there was a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably on 0.5. So, so again, we can, using these numbers, we can probably start to extrapolate what the chances are. Let's look at the answer.
Okay.
So that's not bad, is it?
Yeah.
It's still pretty high, isn't it? You've got to hit a lot of golf balls to get one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to lose a lot as well.
Yeah.
If you play anything like me. That's the stat for an ordinary golfer. For a pro golfer, those odds become better. Okay, let's look at our next one.
Okay.
Bear attack. So in the UK, perhaps the chance for bear attack is pretty slim, isn't it? But if you were visiting a national park in the States, for example, or you was in British Columbia or something like that in Canada, then there is obviously a much higher risk of bear attack than here in the UK. So our stat here is around Yellowstone National Park. What do you think then the chance of a bear attack is? In fact, what do you think would incur the attack of a bear?
I was in Yellowstone National Park September last year, and we were warned by wardens and rangers, be careful. There is a highish risk of getting attacked, and we were told what to do should one come roaring towards you.
You should know the answer then.
Well, I know, I can't remember what they told us, but it was enough to make me look over my shoulder all the time and sort of be careful. Let's put it that way. I've got an idea. It was like something like 1 in 300, 1 in 500 maximum. When we saw evidence of bears, but what the damage they do to trees, other evidence of bears in the vicinity, and you don't tangle with them. They're big animals. They're very powerful animals. So the risk is high, or high-ish.
It is high if you don't follow the advice.
Yes.
So one of the pieces of advice, for example, is if you've got food, then you hoist it up into a tree and keep it off the ground.
Yeah.
And that reduces the risk significantly of a bear getting interested in you.
Yeah. And carry bear spray as well.
Yes. Yeah, you could do that. Fortunately, the risk is actually lower than you thought.
Oh, right.
So if you do want to visit Yellowstone National Park, you're quite safe by the looks.
It's safe to do so. Jolly good.
Yeah.
Perhaps the whole thing was being dramatized when we were there. So
well, I guess they've got to deal with the carnage, haven't they, when a bear does attack? All right. Let's look at the next one then. This brings things a bit more closer to home. As business owners, we all submit self-assessments and other forms of tax return. So according to the HMRC, there are over 12 million returns filed in the UK in the last financial year. How many of those do you think were examined? Because there's a lot of automation that HMRC use.
I'm going 1 in 10,000.
Yeah.
1 in 10. So if you had to put that as a percentage, I'm not a mathematician.
Oh, okay. Percentage of 12 million. Oh, quite low then, isn't it? 1%.
Okay.
2 in 100.
2%. Okay.
Just over 2% chance. Yeah. So honesty is definitely the best policy, isn't it, when it comes to a tax return? Because I don't know what you think. 2% doesn't sound very high, but it also sounds high enough to me that we want to make sure that our tax return is accurate. Okay, let's look at the next one. We're getting near the end now. Being struck by lightning. So this is statistics from the United States. If you live to be 80 years old, the US National Weather Service says that there is a chance of being struck by lightning. It's roughly 1 in what? So this is obviously from the States, where they get probably more thunderstorms and more vicious thunderstorms than we get here in Europe. However, that is obviously changing. What do you think the chances are?
1 in a million.
Yeah.
1 in a million?
I'd go with that. Yeah, I don't know. It's unlikely. 14,600. Crikey.
Miles away. Miles away.
That's right. And that tells you a lot about people's behaviour, doesn't it?
Yeah.
More chance of being struck by lightning than being attacked by a bear in the US.
There we go. Yeah. So different parts of the world, people are outdoors, aren't they, doing different things. I think there's also a statistic somewhere about being struck by lightning twice. I don't know what the answer is to that. Yeah. But again, that helps us to plan. When we know numbers like this, then we know that we need to plan effectively, don't we, if we see a thunderstorm coming. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, so we're getting near the end now. And this is going back to what we talked about earlier on, how we protect our home. So each year in the UK, 234,000 homes experience a break-in or burglary each year. Now, there are over 26 million homes in the UK. So there's a simple stat there. If we had a calculator, we could probably work that out. But let's bring up the answer.
isn't it? 1 in 110.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there we
it's
are.
almost a 1% chance annually of your home being broken into. I don't like those odds. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, they're not very high at all, are they? There's a high probability that could happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like you said about geography, you know, it's more likely in certain parts of the UK than others.
That's very true.
Yeah. We're very lucky in this part of the world. We live in a low crime area. It mustn't be complacent, but it is a low crime area. We are fortunate. Still be vigilant, though.
Absolutely. That number is high enough in my mind to make me want to make sure I've got the right locks, the right cameras.
Yes.
Because if you think about how a thief operates, he'll do his surveillance. He'll come along in the road, see which house is the easiest target.
Which is easiest.
He's not going to find the one with all the cameras and the big dogs in the grounds and security guards. That just looks like way too much effort, doesn't it? He's going to see the one where the windows are left open, the door's unlocked, and there's no one can see what he's doing. Yeah. So again, if we work to reduce risk, then we can improve those odds for ourselves. Let's look at our final statistic. So in a 2024 report, this is very current, by the UK National Cybersecurity Centre, they estimate the chances of a small business experiencing a cyber attack or a data breach as high as 1 in what? So this is like our business home being broken into. So it was a 1% chance before, 1 in 100. What do you think the odds are for a business?
No, I reckon, Paul, I think this is going to be the lowest of all the stats that you've given us. I don't know why I think that, but I just think that might be the case. Am I warm?
Pretty close. Yeah, pretty close. Do you want to have a guess at a number?
1 in 40, 1 in 50.
1 in 40, 1 in 50, yeah. Okay, well, let's bring up the answer.
1 in 4.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And if you operate a medium or large business, that goes into 1 in 2. So 50% chance for a larger business. But there's still a 25% chance annually your business could experience a successful cyber attack or data breach. So that brings the point home, doesn't it, about how important it is that we have cybersecurity for our businesses. Can we just move on to the next slide where we've got a few statistics here just to drive this point home? 50% of all UK companies have suffered cyber attacks or data breaches in the last 12 months. That's averaged across small, medium, and large. So it's definitely something that's going on. One small business in the UK is successfully hacked every 19 seconds. The average cost per victim of a cyber attack, so let's say a business here, small business, is £1,200. Now, there's a little caveat to this statistic. This excludes where phishing plays a part. So we'll talk about phishing briefly in a moment.
Yep.
1.2% of all emails every day globally sent are malicious. That would include phishing emails. And over 90% of all cyber attacks in the UK involve phishing by email. So it's still the number one entry point that hackers use or criminals use to get into a business system. And this is the worrying stat. Less than a third of businesses provide security training to their staff.
Goodness me.
Crikey. Yeah.
That just sounds daft, doesn't it?
Can I ask you, Paul, where these stats would come from? Obviously, you've got your good sources, but especially that last one. That's quite alarming, isn't it?
So all of these statistics are from the National Cybersecurity Centre.
Right.
The National Cybersecurity Centre, NCSE, they are a division of GCHQ, which is the government agency that's used for intelligence. And the NCSE's job is to advise citizens and businesses of the UK how to stay safe when online. And they provide a lot of really good guidance for small businesses. Now, they obviously assist with bigger businesses as well, critical infrastructure, and so forth. One of the things National Cybersecurity Centre operates is a scheme called Cyber Essentials. We'll talk about it in a moment. But Cyber Essentials is an accreditation that businesses can go through to basically align themselves with best practice cybersecurity. It's not necessarily the be-all and end-all, but it reduces the chance of successful attacks by 86%.
Brilliant.
And it's not expensive to do. It's an annual thing. It's a compliance thing, basically. And once you've done it the first time, it's quite easy to stay compliant. And that's what we help our customers to do, stay compliant with this Cyber Essential standard and some extra things as well. Now, if you're worried about cybersecurity, I would say don't be worried. That's the last thing you want. The situation hasn't changed since yesterday, and it will be the same tomorrow as well. But we still should be aware of what the risks are for our businesses. We've written a guide. It's a good cybersecurity. I've got the link there on the screen, or if you want to scan that with your camera, it's a PDF, 25-page guide. Gives you some really helpful tips, things to avoid, things to do. So that's useful there. I just want to just talk a few things about maybe some examples of where we've seen cyber attacks have an effect on businesses. I've got 3 examples here. One could be financial loss. Okay, so how can a business lose money because of a successful cyber attack? So a few years ago, it wasn't that recent, but a few years ago, one of our customers had one of their inboxes hacked, and it was the inbox of their bookkeeper. And they used that inbox to examine information about that company's customers. They then used the bookkeeper's email address to send an email to all the customers saying, "Oh, we've changed our bank details. So when you pay your next invoice, can you pay it to this account at Barclays rather than this one at Lloyd's?" So basically, they were redirecting funds. That company lost £150,000 in unpaid invoices. And that money was gone. It went offshore very quickly, so the banks couldn't retrieve it. Since then, we've been working with them, and we've helped them to make improvements to reduce the chances of those inboxes getting hacked. And we're doing regular security awareness training for their staff. Another example, this was a near miss, this one. It didn't cost the customer, thank goodness. It's a printing company. And we've worked with them on and off for a number of years, but they've never really been fully engaged about their IT and their cybersecurity. And they've been buying computers themselves, installing them on their network. We weren't aware of these computers. So as a result, the antivirus software wasn't getting installed, and they weren't being updated and patched and kept up to date, which is a critical thing to do. Now, they reported to us that one of their servers was showing some strange behavior. So we started using one of our monitoring systems to monitor it 24/7, see what was going on with this server that the customer was reporting about. We didn't have to wait long. On a Sunday morning, our monitoring system detected an intrusion on that server. And our system is quite smart. When it detects a sequence of certain events that match known patterns, it isolated that server off of the network so the hacker no longer had access. We were notified straight away and logged in and found out how the hacker got on, which was using out-of-date software on a computer that wasn't protected with antivirus software. Now, the really interesting point about this was, one, the server was saved and all the data that was on it was saved, so the hacker wasn't successful. There was a lot of data on that server, and it could have wiped their business out overnight by losing that data. But our monitoring service, from detecting the pattern of activity through to isolating that server and notifying us, that process took 22 seconds. So normally, if a hacker gets onto a network, you don't know about it for days, weeks, or months. And by then, it's kind of too late. So that was a really great thing for them. And we managed to resolve the issues that they had. And since then, they've been in a much better position. One third final example. This is probably a bit more relatable. This was recent. It was a care home that we help. And the deputy manager received an email from someone she was expecting an email from. And even it was about a contract they were signing. So she opened the email. It prompted her to sign the document that was in there. She was expecting a document from this person. And within seconds of her clicking that and entering her password, her account was compromised. But we have our monitoring system in place, and an unusual sign-on was detected. And in less than 5 minutes, we had the hacker kicked out, removed, blocked. Now, they do cyber security awareness training with their staff, but it even shows, even when you are doing the training, people still can easily make mistakes because we're busy, we're rushing all the time. And these emails are designed to trick us or make us have a sense of urgency into clicking a link or signing into something. So there's just some examples there. There are many, many more I could relate on. So every few days a week, we will save a person or a business from a potential cyber attack. And it all happens really quickly and everyone's happy. So we haven't had yet a situation where our service has missed something and the customers ended up in a situation where it's cost them in some way or another. Now, when we talk to businesses about cybersecurity, I get, obviously there's a how would you say this? it's got to be expensive, isn't it? Cybersecurity has got to be expensive. So people find reasons not to do it, not to get involved with it, not to try and look at what can they improve. Common excuses I hear are, well, we're not stupid. We know what a phishing email looks like. I know what not to click on. Well, the statistics show otherwise, doesn't it? And that's a level of the Information Commissioner's Office, who are the data regulator for the UK. If you have to report a data breach to them, one of the first questions they're going to ask you is, what did you do to prevent a data breach? And if they say to you, did you train your staff in security awareness? And you say no, the fine will reflect that. So if you do say, I have been training my staff, I have done this, I have done that, then the fine goes down in relation, or even you've done all you can, and so that's kind of the position that they take. Another excuse I sometimes hear is, oh, I use Apple, I don't need cybersecurity. Again, it's a level of overconfidence in the system you're using. Whether or not you use Windows or Apple doesn't change the fact that your data is any better protected.
Right, yeah.
The opportunities for hackers extend way past what laptop you use or what phone you use.
Sure.
Most of our data these days is in the cloud. The hacker's not interested in your laptop, whether it's Mac or Windows. And Macs are just as vulnerable as Windows devices. Another funny excuse I heard recently was, I don't need cybersecurity. If something happens, I'll just foot the bill. And that's like saying, I will self-insure.
Yeah.
So, but again, if you're not protecting yourself, you're not reducing the risk. So the chances of a successful hack and that hack costing you in some way are increasing exponentially. So we have to accept the fact there are risks to our business. So hopefully you can't hear my dog barking.
Is that your dog?
It is. Yeah, you can hear something. So how can we help ourselves? Probably the value bit here.
Yeah.
We need to know. Can you just excuse me 1 second?
Yeah,
I'm
go on
really
then. While Paul's just gone to shush his dog up, to which I guess protects his house. I guess the key thing there is that don't wait to need cybersecurity. Invest in cybersecurity before you need it, in the same way as you would with any other insurance type of product. Would you say that's right, Paul?
Yeah, don't wait. And yes, definitely look at cyber insurance as well. Cyber insurance will certainly help you offset some of the costs of a successful cyber attack, but the cyber insurance provider will have a high expectation of things you need to do to be compliant with their insurance policy.
Yeah, sure.
So there's a lot you need to be doing, and that's where we help businesses.
I was going to say,
So
and that's when you come in. You can advise on what's needed, what insurers would expect, what level of protection. You offer consultancy service on that.
Precisely.
And the software. Yeah.
Paul, don't worry. This is a live show. We don't mind dogs barking. It's a live show.
Live. Don't work with animals.
Makes it real. Makes it real.
So very simply,
okay.
How can we help ourselves? Firstly, know what it is you're protecting yourself against. So understand what the risks are, and also understand what it is you're protecting. So, for example, you may have computers in the business, laptops, desktops, servers. You may have a website. You may have social media accounts. You've definitely got a bank account. So what sort of things do I need to make sure are protected? And then what data do I store that is sensitive? Now, a lot of business owners say to me, we don't store any sensitive data. If you have employees, you have sensitive data. If you've got information about your customers, you've got sensitive data.
Sure.
So we can't ignore that, especially like billing information and things like that. Around the data, where is it? Who's got access to it? Is there a backup? Can I recover that data should there be a cyber incident or some sort of accident? Now, when we bring customers on board to PS Tech, we go through an assessment with them to help them identify all those different things that they've got that need protecting. We look at how they're currently protecting it and what improvements can be made. There's literally hundreds of things we check. It's quite a long assessment. But then we help the customer to make improvements. We do that assessment regularly, so the customer can then see how progress is being made around their cybersecurity, protecting their data, protecting their people and their assets as well.
Sure.
So that's an important thing. Second most important thing to do, take away from this, is train your people. It's critical. In fact, it's law. Legislation says that businesses should be training staff about information security. And that's under data protection law. It's easy, it's low cost to do. And here at PS Tech, we manage that training for many different businesses. And it has measurable impacts on how people behave, how they in turn start to think about security and their employers' data. And it definitely reduces the number of incidents that happen. And the third tip I've got for today is get expert help. Cybersecurity is a journey. As your business grows and it matures, it gets more complex, and the threats and the risks also increase as well. Things always change and evolve. But even when you're a very small business, one person or 5 to 10 people, there is still a minimum set of things you should be doing. And that's where PS Tech come in. We look after those minimum things and more for you, take away the stress, the anxiety about going about implementing good cybersecurity. And as I said, everything we do aligns with Cyber Essentials, which is that UK government minimum standard for good cyber hygiene.
Excellent.
And we surpass that as well. So what we're offering any business in the Uckfield area is a free basic assessment of your cybersecurity. It takes the form of a virtual meeting where we'll listen to you, ask some questions, and then give you some advice on what you've told us, and then maybe make some plans for some further steps of improvement.
Okay.
Good.
Sounds fantastic, Paul. So to any business in Uckfield, that's an offer. You don't have to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce, although it helps if you are, to have a free cybersecurity check to see whether you're following the cyber essentials that are necessary for your business or indeed any business.
Yeah, very good. And if you're watching this on demand, rewind back, get that QR code up or that link and download our free guide, because there is things in there that you can do for yourself. So if you don't want to pay out money for a company to help you, there are things you can do for yourself.
I feel a little blog coming on for our website. I think you might have done one before, but I think a fresh Cyber Essentials blog might be a good idea, Paul, if you've got a moment to do that for us and for to promote PS Tech as well, included in that. And we'll carry that content on our website and to push it out to our members and
very
to
good.
make people that they are aware of it.
When you know you've got these things under control and you've got someone, either you're doing it yourself well or you've got someone helping you to look after these things, the stress and worry that so many people suffer as a result of worrying about their data, worrying about their money, whatever it might be in their business, if you know that you've done all you can, that is hugely valuable to your own well-being as well as protecting yourself for the future.
Sure. Jolly good. Well, look, Paul Stanyer, thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, we've been going for almost 45 minutes, so I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but I just want to go through a few parish notices very, very quickly at the end of this podcast. Those of you that watch this pod on a regular basis or attend chamber meetings will know what we do, but once a month, and this is our final virtual networking meeting for 2024, next Wednesday, the 6th of November, we meet online between 9 and 10 a.m. And Catherine Colas is our speaker on this occasion. She's going to be talking about the important subject of managing the menopause in the workplace. Whether we're male or female, it has a knock-on effect on all our lives. This fact of menopause. So next up, we have another podcast on the 21st of November, so a little bit earlier in the month than usual. And next month, Claire's joining me, Claire Allen, to present. And we're going to be visiting the new premises of the King's Church in Uckfield. See their brand new shiny building, see behind the scenes. They've got plans to let this out to businesses going forward. So we're really looking forward to that one. And then at the end of November, this is our next members meeting. This is for our members only. And booking is open now via Eventbrite, via a link on our system. Tickets are just £10 for our members, plus a booking fee, small booking fee. And this price has been substantially underwritten by the Chamber. It costs a lot more per head to enjoy their fine food at Buxley Park Hotel. But before we go on to that, so it's the 28th of November, and you can book online. And then late night shopping is coming up, Chris, in Uckfield. You always enjoy late night shopping, don't you?
Very much so. Yeah, I'm at Marshall at Grange Road, so I know how. And we always get traffic issues at Grange Road. But no, it's a great evening. We're always lucky with the weather. Of course, it also combines with the Festival of Trees event at the church, so it's going to be a real big day, a real big weekend for Uckfield. So please support it. Please come along. Really enjoyable, great for kids, great for everybody. Please do.
Absolutely. And landing on your doormat, that's it. The Christmas in Uckfield magazine, the 48-page glossy magazine guide to that's going to be going to 6,000 Uckfield homes next week. I'm told that the delivery will be with me tomorrow. So I'm really excited to see the magazine in print, having signed off on it. And thank you to all our advertisers who have advertised in the magazine. And if you're not getting one delivered through your letterbox in Uckfield, then in all good locations in Uckfield, there will be copies available: Civic Centre, the library, and various other places as well. And then we also, of course, in time-honoured tradition at the Chamber, we've got a Christmas lunch. Again, this is really for our members and potentially any invited guests. It's just £36 for 3 courses. We're meeting on Friday, the 13th of December. We're not superstitious at all. Between 12:30 and 3 p.m. For a really nice Christmas lunch. Christmas jumpers are obligatory. No, they're not. They're optional, but we hope you wear them and join us for a festive occasion. So if you want to come to that, just drop me an email and we'll be delighted to hear from you, and we'll send you an invoice for the cost of it.
Are numbers limited on the lunch, Ian, or is it?
Yeah, they're limited, but there's a high limit. So we've
got plenty of space in.
As many as we want.
Book early. Book early. Should be good.
Book early, yeah, indeed. Good. So, Paul, I hope we can see you at one of those events coming up in the next month or two.
Be a pleasure.
We see you in person. It's always good to meet online, though, if we can't meet in person. So thank you to Gordon Manklow, our producer guy in the background from Relativity Limited. Thank you, Gordon, for all the hard yards you put in before today. And thank you again to Paul for joining us. And a very good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.